Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call the Budget Finance Investment Committee to order, and we are continuing our work on the 2011-2012 budget proposal. The first budget that we will consider tonight is the Highway Fund, and I will ask Mr. Williams to join us at the table. The mayor does not make a recommendation on this fund. The budget is sent to us from the Road Board. But before we begin with the details of your budget, Mr. Williams, I'm going to ask the Finance Director to remind us a little bit about our maintenance of effort. Gentlemen, if you will turn, please, to Section 9 in your notebooks.
Okay, we are estimating revenue with additional ½ cent going into the Highway Fund. We bring total revenues at $7,930,816. If you still have your document, that
the next page should be what she's referring to
the maintenance of effort. This is the document that we use to prove whether or not we've met that maintenance of effort projected where I thought we would be at the end of this fiscal year. So our maintenance of effort, we'd have to make sure that we allocated at least $4.3 million in revenue to the Highway Fund, and moving that ½ cent from the ambulance fund will generate sufficient revenues. I'm going to remind you what has caused the decrease. One of the decrease is us having to pay back the city of Murfreesboro for those businesses that that their sales tax was going into this fund, a portion of it.
They were in Murfreesboro and not in the county.
Right.
And actually,
they were in the county, but not just in the county.
Right.
And that created a false number here, basically. That number wouldn't have been as high if that number had been correct.
Why don't we get an adjustment for that?
When will we get?
No, why don't we get an adjustment for the maintenance of effort then if we?
Because the state really doesn't care.
I should have known that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the ripple effect, I guess. Make one mistake and it's another mistake.
Well, I mean, that's what.
And it's not even our mistake to catch.
Local representatives for. You know, we should be able to pass that on to our local representatives and see if they can't help us there.
Well, they would say it was our responsibility to ensure that everything was done, the audit was done.
But we don't have the ability to check those businesses and make sure they're sending it correct direction, do we?
We're doing what the cities, we're in the process right now of checking that too, to make sure that businesses that maybe really should be in Rutherford County that might be reported, say, to Bedford County. You know, we're doing that process too.
Okay. But when you're at the bottom of the food chain, you take the leftovers anyhow, don't you? Okay.
Really, another major piece of this is the fact that the mineral severance tax continues to decline, and you know, so we're losing that maintenance of effort piece there. It's going down.
That and interest.
Interest, yeah.
Which is the other local taxes and revenue. That is, you know, we're having to make up for that too. So I guess
the money that we're talking about locally, just so I've got this straight in my mind though, is that not going toward our work that we do?
That's a decision.
Public Works.
That's a decision that was done in this fund.
I understand that, but what I'm getting at is not that question, but the other funds that he has comes from the state. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the only ones that actually are coming out of the county is where we're doing this local work off the roads, or is part of this local funding going into actual?
Actually, if you just backed up before we had that Public Works in here, there was no property tax. These revenues, you know, the hotel motel was never in there, but all those from mineral severance below was the local effort.
That was there previous to it being a Public Works department.
Even without Public Works, we'd be looking at maintenance of effort this year.
I believe.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I was wanting to get clear in my head. Okay.
Right. Now, once you put property tax in there, it didn't matter that you were allocating it to a different program. once property tax went in there, it became a maintenance of effort factor in the highway fund.
So if for some reason we decide not to have public works, we have to still fund it anyway, to some extent.
We have created this level of expenditures, we'll have to continue
Yeah.
to fund it at least that level.
Not that I have any intention of not funding public works. They do a great job and, you know, with what they've got. But, you know, it's, the state really beats us up on a lot of different levels. And, you know, you try and step up and do something and all of a sudden it becomes mandatory.
To speak to your question initially is to make sure that those monies that did go into this fund was going to be allocated to the Public Works portion of it. I worked with Marion to make sure what our test is going to be is when you get to that other charges account that's $513,000 allocated to that, that's about what that property tax going in there was going to cover anyway. So if you don't spend all that amount, that's the amount that at the end of the year that will roll into the fund balance that was committed to Public Works. We're estimating that balance to be at the end of this year at $1.2 million.
You've got that penny for property tax revenue to Public Works, and it's a full penny, correct?
No, that was a full penny before we were.
Oh, before we reappraised.
Right, then it was down to a .9. Yeah, a .9 penny. So moving the half a cent in there.
5-digit fraction.
Yeah, we're at 1.4. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Williams, if you will speak to the details of your budget. Gentlemen, the expenditure part of the budget begins in section 10.
Okay, last year our budget was $9,392,505. This year we are proposing a budget of $9,329,445, which is $63,000 less than last year's budget. And there are a couple of line items that we had to increase considerably. One of them being our salt supply. We deleted all of it last year. And we had 75,000 in last year to replenish the year before. It's, well, I'm on a different thing than y'all are probably.
We have this, Mr. Williams, we have.
You have this?
Yes, we do.
Okay, it's on the,
Which one? 444. It's on page 2 of,
yeah. Yeah, it's on page 2.
I got you.
We increased that to 120,000. That'll just about fill our salt bin up if the price stays comparable to last year.
Is it available now? Have they
It's available.
replenished?
It is probably available right now, but we get a quote in August for the following winter, and we'll probably wait till that quote comes in before we purchase. And at that time, we'll probably buy all of that 120,000 where we fill the bin up.
Y'all not doing any of that brine, or
No.
whatever you call it?
No.
It's just strictly
Just
state.
salt.
Unless we got the same amount down for asphalt. Asphalt is gonna be higher than last year, isn't it?
It is gonna be higher.
We're just gonna do a little less of it.
We'll probably do a little less. I'm hoping maybe if gasoline prices go down like they say, asphalt is usually goes down too. So hopefully we'll be okay there. We've still got about $1 million in our asphalt fund to finish the year. And we were planning on paving for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but we've been picking up brush.
Yeah.
And it'll probably take the rest of that to finish the year out, because when we're paving, we're spending about $60,000 a day. So it doesn't take long to get rid of $1 million at that rate.
I know our roads have gotten in really good shape in the last few years with petroleum prices. We've scaled back more or less on our paving, and I just worry about that catching up with us over the term of years, because we've got a little farther between paving some of these roads, and I hate to I know there's nothing we can do about it, but
Well, with the gasoline tax not coming in, I don't see any way to hardly raise that
Yeah.
and without raising property tax. We're trying to stay away from that.
My one question about asphalt there, I know some of the places that we've paved, over the years, we've kind of built the highway up more.
Right.
Are we ever going to be getting to the point on some of these where we're actually going in and grinding the road down to?
That's
to
something that we'll probably have to be doing in the next 2 or 3 years, I'd say, especially on new subdivision that have the curb and gutter.
Right,
You have to plane at least the portion next to the gutter where your asphalt will tie into the gutter.
right.
And we've got a few roads that we may have to do some planning on. And
Well, you start causing some drainage issues in some areas if you keep building it up high enough. That's why
Yeah.
I was getting at.
Yeah.
So.
in some places where water crossed the road before, it
Right.
doesn't cross for another. When you put an inch down, it's another inch deeper.
Exactly.
But that's something we are looking at.
Okay.
some of these old county roads have been paved so many times over the last 75 years, it's getting the ditches are getting a little deep. If you get a
Yeah.
tire off the edge,
Yeah.
you go all the way to the bottom of the ditch and
Yep.
get to be a safety situation at some point in time.
The other increase, the big increase is in, on page 4 of 5, other contracted services. We raised that to $42,500. There's an area down off the old Nashville Highway that we're looking to do some injection wells, and that is in the Public Works Fund. Eric has been doing a study with Dr. Ogden to see if that's feasible, and that study hadn't come back yet, but we're looking for it anytime. But the rest of it, we did figure a step raise for each employee in this. We reduced our force from 67 employees to 64 in order to be able to do that. And most of the other funding is coming out of our equipment fund, which is on page 5 of 5, highway equipment. With the price of asphalt going up, I can't see that we'll probably be buying a whole lot of equipment simply because we don't have the money to buy the material to use the equipment for. But I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Gentlemen, it might be helpful if we'll turn on in our notebooks to our document as printed from the Finance Office. Page 1, the administration, 6,100. That total would be $688,425. I'll give you a few seconds to see if you have any specific questions as to the 61,000 line item or category.
You're at the back of what he just,
Section 10, yes,
yes.
Yeah, that's page
It's
1.
It's just a repeat.
It's
of
page
theirs,
1.
but on
Okay.
It's just in our form.
Yeah.
Okay, on page 3, highway and bridge maintenance, and that total is $6,003,245. And I'll give you a few minutes, and he's already mentioned the salt in that area, but you might glance at some of the other details.
I know you've got the same amount down for road signs as last year. I mean, there's been a little bit of talk about these new standards and all, but we're pretty far along in that system,
We
are
are
we not?
probably 80% complete with
Yeah.
what we were mandated to do by
Yeah.
2018. Of course, we probably lose 8 or 10 signs a day due to theft and vandalism. But I
Ones with the
don't,
really
after
cool
this
names,
year,
I guess.
after this year, I look for that budget item to go down. Hopefully, we purchase the new sign machine and that won't be out of this year's budget, it came out of last year's.
Even though he continues to be more efficient, which is obvious, he spends less dollars, we still have to put the same money in every year. So just make that point, we need it, we're working on it, because we don't know what to do.
Well, it is frustrating with this public work fund being part of the maintenance of effort. That's one thing, well, we'll mention it while he's here, is I'd like to get that pulled out of that and separate, because if we do have to increase that sometime in the future, that won't go against our maintenance of effort. I mean, it's something we need to look at, I think.
It still may be, because it's in my fund.
That's when it initially started. I didn't want to even put that in that as the maintenance of effort, because the point was, it wasn't for the highway, it was from Public Works. And then the state said, if you're putting property tax in the highway fund, it becomes part of your maintenance of effort.
The first year it was out, or two, and then we put it in, we had to group it, I remember. We had
I'm
a
saying,
separate-
when it went
we-
in, I
Yeah.
had to start putting that on that document.
I don't think it was ever out.
No,
Well,
when we
it's-
started, it used to be a separate fund
Like
when it
133
first
or
started.
Yeah,
Yeah, we looked at the highway department, then we looked at public works, but then
yeah.
I remember it had to be pulled together. I thought it had to be pulled together.
Well, like I said, please look at that, if there's some way out of that.
I'll try. I'll see.
Leave with it. Well, I think something else is we need to look at some of these things like that are included to come up with the maintenance effort, being the mineral tax that is dropped out of sight compared to what it ran for years, and, you know, to come up with another formula.
And that'll remain down until construction picks
Yeah.
up.
Mhm.
Right.
But
We will just have to review all of this, the statute, and see what legally, what tools might be in the toolbox. It's gonna take some major changes that we don't know what they are. Continuing on with the way we are right now, this coming year for sure.
When you go messing with that budget, if you look at it by working out that day to day, for a county this size here, what you have to do, you wear down the total program, so you ain't wasting no money. Highway department, I can tell you that.
No, they're not, that's for sure. That's what we're saying, they're being more and more efficient.
Well, I want to make a motion to approve the proposed budget from the highway department.
Second motion.
Okay, Commissioner P., seconded by Commissioner Sandlin.
$9,325,440.
Okay, we'll just go to the last, $9,329,445 is the total. Any further discussion?
I just want to ask one question. In the last 5 years, what's been your, because I know you've told us before, you know, about people, you weren't filling positions in this. What's the most people that have been working at the highway department per year in the last 5 years? Is it 75 or?
77.
77?
Yeah, somewhere.
In that
I
neighborhood?
think when I took office, there were 78 and 92, and we're down to 64 right now, and 3 of those positions aren't filled right now.
Any further discussion, gentlemen?
You got more mileage each year added, all these subdivisions added.
Used to be 1,000 miles of roads, it's more than that now.
No, it's 963. Yeah.
Okay.
Last 5 or 6 years, the cities have annexed about as much as we've put on subdivisions, but that's changed in the last year or so. They're not annexing like they did.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Next is the Solid Waste Sanitation Fund. Gentlemen, if you will turn to Section 3 in your notebooks.
Okay, we are estimating revenue at $2,304,000. Now, this fund would receive 60% of the sales tax from the sales tax generated in the rural area. So when we had to pay back, this fund hurts the worst. So we were estimating, typically we would have estimated 1.2 million and have for several years in this fund, and now we're estimating 504,000. So we were typically budgeting about 750,000 a year. We're estimating now to go in the fund balance about almost 1.4 million. With the estimate of the beginning fund balance at 3.7, we would end at 2.3, 2.4. And expenses begin after 4, in section 4.
Yeah, if you'll go ahead and turn to section 4. Page 1, Mayor Burgess, that is the litter grant.
Okay, on page 1 there, that litter grant, which is labeled sanitation, education / information. The recommendation is $129,262. You'll notice that there's nominal changes there. You'll see that if you look at line item 149, that just reflects that we had one person that was doing that function that's not with us, and then we've replaced him with a person making a little bit less money, which is reflected again in a little savings in that insurance line item. And he's added $1,000 for gasoline, so it's a continuation budget, $129,262.
Okay, and pages 2 through 4, convenience centers. And I just realized I didn't even say hello to Mr. Nolan. Hello.
Well, this is for convenience centers, and it has 3 pages there. The increase is about $130,000 in the total, so the recommendation is $2,408,265. We'll review a few points there just to, so you can see some of the changes. Truck drivers are still the same. There's some step increases there. We will make note of the fact that line item 149, there's a very, very small decrease, but they have revisited and reworked exactly how much our part-time people are making, and we are giving these people, which I believe is very, very much deserved, a 50-cent per hour raise. These are the convenience center workers, but we've still managed to come in a few dollars even less than the current year's budget.
What's that make their hourly rate?
It ranges from, she knows because she reworks, and y'all can tell us.
It ranges from about $8 an hour up to, I think, $9.75 is the highest.
Okay. And is that based on what they do, or is that based on the longevity?
Longevity.
Okay. So they're basically all the same classifications, what I'm getting at.
And, okay, so there's a little bit of change in the insurance there, but that's because of the mix of people that are taking insurance, truck drivers, et cetera. Let's see, the next page, we're increasing a slight amount on this equipment and vehicle repair, about $7,000 and about $10,000 on the vehicles, just because of the aging of the equipment. Asphalt, we've increased that $10,000. We're hoping again, as we've done in years past, to continue the paving of these locations, and I think we've got 2 or 3 locations potentially. Craner Road, Eagleville, and maybe one more. I was thinking what you had said there, so we've been doing a good job trying to get those done. And will that finish us up, or do we still have more journey to go?
Eagleville, Craner Road, and Christiana Fosterville are not paved.
That's what I say, but we...
Then if Lascass is a different thing. But yes,
But anyway,
once we get those 3 done, then we'll have them all.
For the first time, we'll have them finished up.
Sand Hill actually needs to be redone, but we'll wait on that.
There's nothing else on, no other changes on that page. A little less, a reduction in communication equipment. We're continuing that we still have 2 vehicles in the budget, motor vehicles 718 for this, which is the same as this year.
That 2 roll-offs?
Yes, sir.
They need them.
One of them wrecked. You gotta replace one wrecked one, do we not?
Well,
Or that-
we wound up replacing it with one that we weren't planning on replacing.
Mhm.
So we're still not where we wanted to be, but that's where we are.
And in the event that we move that Lascassas location, we've increased the site development from 25,000 to 125,000 for that contingency, and possibly redoing one of the others, I think, at Craner Roads. So that's something that we may have to do. But in any event, the total is up largely because of that site development contingency, about $130,000. So the recommendation on that is $2,408,265.
Lascassas is the only one that we don't own, is that correct?
That is correct.
Have we found a site?
We're still looking for a site. We found a few possibles, but we haven't nailed one down.
I know at some point in time, it's been talked about for years, Leanna's in a tiny spot over there, would love to have a bigger area, to have more than one compactor and all, such as the bigger sites, but everybody wants a convenience center, but they don't want it next door to them, you know?
That's right.
We really do need it there. I mean, there's no question about it. Okay.
Gentlemen, go to page, excuse me, did someone have a comment? Go to page 5, please. This is recycling, and on our notebook, it's called Other Waste Collection.
Electronic recycling primarily. This is the Haley Road site. And it does include all the recycling. But you'll notice one of the primary changes, that line item 312, and those contracts with private agents, as you see, that's gone from $254,000 in 2009 down to just $10,000 now. This is only now. Occasionally do we need to have an outside hauler help us if we get behind. We're doing all this hauling internally with the same staff and the same number of trucks, and they've done a remarkable job handling all of that. So that's been a major improvement to our bottom line. Site development, we don't know. We've been talking about making some enhanced improvements at Haley Road, and we keep putting a little money in there, and we still haven't done anything. So we have $15,000 there, and we don't know if we'll use it, but that's what we have that for. So that total is $113,085.
We have a couple more, just a minute. Yeah, I was just seeing if anybody might have any discussion on that. Pages 6, 7, and 8, the landfill part of this budget.
Let me make one comment on that other waste collection. That $113,000 is what we are budgeting to possibly spend, and we've taken in close to $300,000 in rebate revenues. So that budget actually makes money. Rest of them don't, but that one.
Since we just mentioned it, I would like to ask a question about the convenience centers. And where does our property actually start that we're required to cover, and where does the city's end if it's one is? I'm speaking specifically of Sand Hill, because at the bottom of the hill, right when you hit Sand Hill Road, I mean, it's a mess down there. Is that ours, or is that the city's?
I think it's the city. The city says it's ours.
I knew that was going to be the
You've got a
answer.
little right-of-way thing there. So,
Yeah.
you know, to me, from the culvert onto the street is theirs, and they say it isn't, so.
Okay.
I could at least fix it, then they give them free garbage hauled off the burn, and you gotta pay them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, point well taken.
Moving right along.
Pages 6, 7, and 8, gentlemen, the landfill portion.
Okay, that first page is nominal changes there. The only one communication has decreased as costs are there. And we'll go over to the next page. 359 disposal fees on these tires. We're going to need $235,000 there, which is increased over this current year's budget just because we're getting a lot more tires, is the bottom line.
Right.
And so we don't really have any choice there, do we?
Well, while we're talking about things we can ask our legislators about, I know in Alabama, they ground up the tires, and they actually use that for cover in their landfills. Now here, by statute, we can't do that.
The only way we can do it in Tennessee is if we can prove it's cheaper for us to grind it than it is for us to do what we're doing.
If we had our own grinders there, I mean, $235,000 would go a long way toward purchasing equipment.
Yeah,
And
we are receiving revenue from the state on, I don't know how much.
$183,000 is grant money from the
We
state.
do get grant money, it's just that they've capped it and we're not getting an increase in that.
So the difference is the, let's see,
It's not a
15.
dollar per tire. or something like
About
52,000.
yeah, 50-something thousand.
If you go purchase a new tire, they charge you $1.35 pre-disposal fee is what it's listed as. The dealer keeps 10 cents of that, $1.25 is sent to the Department of Revenue. They take that money, divide it among the counties. 11 counties, 11 of the 95 counties generate about 90% of the tires. We're one of those 11. And then they divide that money up that way. And it's based on the amount of dealers in the area and that type of stuff. So we're actually better off with what we have going on than most counties. Most counties are way further off than we are.
They used to come out and cut them and take them. They still doing that?
Well, what they do now is we stack them on a trailer.
Right.
And then we've got a contractor, which is Mac Tire Recycler out of Nashville. They'll come, it's their trailer. They'll come pick up the trailer, take it to Nashville, and they grind them up to either make mulch or boiler fuel or whatever they use it for. They charge us $65 a ton for the tires, and they don't charge us any transportation fee. The state reimburses us $70 a ton. So that $5 difference is for administrative costs, that type of stuff. So it works out pretty well on a car tire, but when you get to agricultural tires and big truck tires, we lose big time.
One combine tire could weigh 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Not that many coming in, but.
And that's the reason, I don't know if y'all remember, not too long ago, we changed it into the resolution to where we charge $1 a tire for a car tire, but we charge $65 a ton for combine tires. And that way we just cover our costs. We're not gonna make anything, we'll just cover the disposal fee.
Okay, if we're ready to move on there, well, $399 is gone from 2,000 to 0. We moved that down into the rentals line item, so it's just that we combined some things here. That didn't go away. Crushed stone is, I believe that's the same. So electricity, looks like that's gone to 0. Again, we moved that down to utilities, so we just combined some things there. A little bit of increase in 420 on fertilizer, lime, and chemicals. This is a continued process of keeping seed and soil properly fertilized and growing on this site. Let's see. Propane gas, that's now 0, but again, we moved that down to utilities. There's no change there, really. So the total budget is for that is $753,219, and all of that increases in that tire disposal fee business.
Gentlemen, any questions or discussion on this portion, landfill operation and maintenance? Okay, Mayor Burgess, let's move to page 9, and it's called post-closure.
Okay, and post-closure is where we have to continually keep that closed landfill in compliance with all the rules, regulations that are out there, and believe me, there are enough, more than enough. But anyway, we're recommending $195,000, and you can see that we have $100,000 for a potential need to use contract agencies to maintain that, and we've still got $35,000 in engineering services, and we're probably going to spend that money this year. We hadn't spent it this year. We'll probably spend that this year. And the other supplies and materials at $15,000 may or may not be enough if we have to really get into some remediation, and we're not there yet to know exactly what will happen, but $195,000.
Any questions or discussion on the post-closure care costs? Gentlemen, let's turn now to page 10, employee benefits. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Those next 2 pages are just
And
what we have to deal with, and
miscellaneous,
Ms. Elaine and Lisa prepare those documents.
Okay, 10 and 11,
Right.
Estimate $39,040 for the employee benefits, miscellaneous at $39,700.
okay, and if you'll turn then to the grand total on the back of that page,
$3
the
million.
mayor's recommendation.
$3,677,571.
Discussion?
Very good for you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
No, second.
Seconded by Commissioner Schaefer.
Are
How long do we have before we have to actually close down that landfill with what's going in it?
There's actually two landfills there. You got the old closed site, was the garbage site that closed, that's the post-closure budget. The other one is the operating budget for the C&D site. And we can keep that one open for quite some time. We've got some space, and we're looking at an expansion area as well.
Even with the, what do I want to say, natural disasters we've been having the last few years? That's where all that goes, isn't it?
Right, when we had the Good Friday tornado, we put a lot into our landfill, and then the state asked us if we wanted an emergency expansion, which we did. And we got it prepared, and by the time we got it prepared, most of the disaster was over, so we didn't get to use it very much. So the state has asked us to come back and actually do the right thing, is go through the public hearings and everything else to get that expansion. But the good thing about it, it's there, it's covered up, got grass growing on it. If we have another big tornado or something, we can call TDEC, hey, we need to open this site up, move the dirt and the grass off of it, and start doing it again.
You mentioned some of the employees were getting a 50-cent raise. I guess that's sort of out of the step sequence.
They're part-time.
Part-time.
They're part-time, so they're not on the pay plan, which is for full-time employees.
How do you decide which employees would get that kind of a pay raise, you know, for particular departments versus others that aren't receiving it?
This department is the lowest.
This is about one of the few departments that has, the majority of its employees are all part-time out there. Most of our other departments have smaller numbers. And yes, we do give them some smaller increases, but
We have more part-time personnel than we have full-time personnel.
Well, most
By
of these
far.
guys are making minimum wage. They
Right.
have for as long as they've been there.
And
No
we-
benefits.
No, none.
These is the guys that's at the convenience center, sitting there with people coming in.
working outside in the rain, the cold, and the heat.
And we pay less than the surrounding counties. Even after this raise, it'll still be less, but it's.
I just have one quick question about their monitoring wells and all their inspections that the state does. Are we still doing good on all that?
We have some issues that we're addressing with the state. They want another monitoring well or two for us to put in. Of course, we've got to do that with contractors and engineers, and they've got to determine where to put it. And you can't just get Herman Clark well drill and go out there and drill a well. It's a whole lot more than that.
Yeah. So our methane levels are all right?
Our methane's doing fine. We've got-
Leachate's all right?
Leachate is still contained.
Good deal.
As far as the life of the C&D site, Allied Waste or whatever the name is, the old BFI site, they've actually dropped their price on C&D, have they not? And taken a lot of your business away, so that's extended the life of our.
They dropped the price. They're $2 a ton cheaper than we are. And they had lost a lot of it. During the tornado, a lot of people realized that the county actually did still have a landfill. We don't advertise them. Most people don't even know we're there. And our business went way up because of the tornado. And then it stayed up after that. So a lot of the contractors were coming to us. They lowered their price trying to get some of that business back, and they didn't. Most of it we still get. You go in our landfill, it costs you $2 a ton more, but you don't have the travel distance to be able to pull and to wait in line. So it's that $2 a ton, is it worth it or not? So most of them still
Well, they
go
have
to
some
us.
signs up out there
They
trying
still
to
do.
message people in.
They still do.
Price wars going on at landfill.
Well, that's something we didn't do. And that's what I told them. They've gone up, they used to be at $30 a ton several years ago. Now they're close to 68, I believe. And we've not gone up any since they went up. So when they went down, we didn't go down either. We just stayed the same.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next budget proposal that we will consider is the general fund, general debt service. That is in section 15 of our notebooks. Mrs. Nolan?
Okay. Oh, wait a minute.
15.
Okay. We're estimating revenues at $60,549,000 with appropriations at $62,417,000, using 1.8, almost 1.9 of fund balance. estimating our beginning fund balance at $33,550,000. Two things that are in the appropriation. One, we have a $21 million note that comes due in April. This budget reflects $21 million in refunding. So we will be projecting to pay off $1 million of that note and then refunding it. Also, there is a $1.8 million estimate for education interest to pay in the spring from a borrowing that we probably will be doing in the fall. Those are two things that are, the 1.8 is not tied down in it for sure, but at least we've got something in there to pay. Now, when we come back to our meeting in June, I'll have a interfund capital outlay note resolution for $15 million to provide us interim financing. Unless I don't remember correctly, the school board is anticipating letting their bid for Stewart's Creek in July. So is that still on track? Okay. So that interim financing gives us a little leeway. I don't expect to need to use $15 million, but it gives us some flexibility from the time they let the money, and we will have money. We will have funding in place, which is what the auditors ensure that when contracts are let, there's money. My plan, Lisa's plan, is that in July, they will know what the bids are. We'll be coming back through August, informing you of what those bids were, and then by then, I'm sure you'll have the estimate for the entire school for that project. And then at that point, you'll decide what other projects that you may consider prior to going to bond market.
Yeah, we've got to make decisions on the stadium projects and the Eagle project and
There
things
are
like
things.
that are all kind of hanging out there.
Which is why the $15 million is in place to give us some time to make those decisions.
And that assumes that the bids come back below 50,000 by quite a bit. If they came back right at, 50 million, if they came back right at 50 million.
You may, here are the decisions.
That's true.
Here are the decisions to make. If it comes in less, what else are you going to do? When we borrow, will we borrow for all of it or a piece of it with a plan to borrow half this fall and maybe the half the next fall? Those are some decisions that we need to make then. But at least we've got things in place in the budget to make some payments.
Yeah. We gave ourselves some flexibility there on, like Eagle, phase 1 and phase 2 together, or part of it, or all of it at one time.
Or none of it.
Or none of it, yeah. Yeah. And some other projects too, so that's what.
And I would rather go to the bond market when we know how much the costs are, instead of an arbitrary number that we're going to borrow.
And you just said that. When are you thinking about the bond market? When?
September. Fall.
Yeah.
Fall
Yeah.
is August, September, October. I don't think before August, September, October in there.
Does our folks tell us it's looking toward a good time at that part, or
Summer's
we
not
don't
a
know
good
right
time.
now,
Just that July, August,
Fall
people
or
are on
spring.
vacation, they said it's not a good time.
But we don't know, he's talking about the market.
Oh,
The
the
market.
market.
We don't know how to predict that right at this moment. I don't think the market's going to change much.
Yeah.
Rates dipped recently.
So long-term rates are holding, dropping just a little bit, so it's still a favorable time. They've gone up
Yeah.
from since the last time they are up, but it's still a reasonable rate.
What do we have floating around in short-term notes right now?
This 21
21
and a 9.6 million. I hate to bring this up, but I'll be remiss if I don't. I won't be doing my job. Go pass that out. I wondered where that one went. Am I short one?
Here, pass this, here, pass this down. Pass this down. Give that to Steve, yeah.
Okay. Now, this is, where are we gonna share? This is Standard & Poor's, rating from the, let's see, in November when we refunded a $42.65 million bond. It's kind of, this was given the AA+ stable rating, and it was affirmed on the new and the long term. They held our rating, but what comes to mind and what I want to bring to you is on the outlook. What is our outlook? So I'll just read this real quick. The stable outlook reflects our view of the county's track record of conservative financial management, which will likely allow the county to sustain its sound financial position as it experiences operating pressures associated with economic slowdown. The outlook also reflects our expectation that the county's capital needs will remain limited and that its overall debt burden will remain moderate. And even though we get a lot of heat about how much we have, they consider our debt load moderate. Okay. But this sentence, should the county's unreserved general fund reserve decline substantially, we could take a negative rating action.
Basically, we need to hold the line at our 15%.
Yes, and actually, they would prefer it was higher.
They want us to raise taxes instead of going back
fund
into
balance,
fund balance. It's the same story we always get.
Right.
If you don't raise taxes, you're liable to have a lesser bond rating. If you do raise taxes, you're beating up the citizens out there paying.
And what we're saying,
Yeah.
what our point would be is that we are still within our policy. As Mr. McAnulty pointed out, why have a policy if you're not going to, use the policy?
Well, the policy is to keep fund balance for bad times. We're in the middle of some pretty bad times economically. I mean, is that not the reason we at least draw down
To it.
to that point? And if there's ever a time to dip below a little bit, it would have been in these circumstances, I would think, so I don't have a problem with pulling down to those numbers at least and then having conversations, because
Everybody else has dipped in the nest egg, I can tell you that.
Well, my counter argument to them is that, but our debt service fund balance is sound. I would think that if anybody was investing in Rutherford County, they would first look, do they have sufficient funds to pay their bonds and notes? And we do.
We're not actually sure if they issue this negative outlook, that may or may not mean that the AA+ changes. It could stay AA+ with a negative outlook. So
That would give you.
Anyway,
I just feel like I have to tell you this.
I would doubt we'd be the only municipality across the country that maybe took a notch or something like that in these times.
There's some in Tennessee that have taken a notch
Yeah.
into that for a fact.
I think, what was it, S&P kind of had a downgrade on federal government recently.
Well, a lot of counties they don't have this guideline that they've imposed on themselves to go by, and we put this
Yes,
together
the mayor brought that up.
quite a
in our
few years ago,
conversation.
to protect ourselves and whoever's up here,
Well, actually, I think our bond rating increased after that, didn't it? Or was it?
It
I
did.
think we were slightly
When you took the steps and put those in there, it did go up, and then we've had another
Yeah.
rating increase. But Moody's language was very similar to this. So, anyway, that's the recommendation.
Okay, gentlemen, looking at the general debt service, any more discussion on any of those pages 1 through 5, the revenue section of debt service? The finance director gave you the quick summary from the summary page. $60,549,211 for the revenue. And the next 9 pages, the details of the expenditures. $62,417,195. Any further discussion on the debt service?
On page 2, on the development tax, Lisa, what's your estimate for the year there?
$1 million.
Okay.
$500,000 for this one, $500,000 in the general fund.
Well, when I saw it split, I wasn't thinking about the other half, so, yeah.
Did we decide we're not gonna make it?
We won't make it this year, but we'll make it next year.
You
So
know.
where was that other 500,000?
Yeah.
That jumped out at me, so.
Gentlemen, the chair will entertain a motion for the debt service fund.
Motion to approve.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Jordan, seconded by Commissioner P. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that motion carries. Do we need to review any budgets at this point? Any work that we have done up to this point? That is the next item on our agenda, to review any budgets as necessary.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I would like to revisit the volunteer fire departments and the rescue squad, specifically budgets from that Monday,
Right.
this past Monday. And I'd like to make a motion that the Laverne Rescue Squad receive $40,000 as the standard volunteer fire departments received.
Our previous action was
30.
30.
Yeah. They are the only rescue area in Laverne and on the interstate up there that's readily available. And I think
Where is that?
that
What's
they,
that?
Section 2, and if you'll
It was an
turn
odd
about
page.
64, on the back of page 64.
Pages way out.
You want to find that from, was that Monday night we decided?
yeah, I think that's what, yeah, it was Monday night.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, we do have a second, a motion and a second. Discussion, Commissioner Baum?
Some of the estimates for 2011, the mayor's recommendations for 2011, 2012, it sounded like some of them had changed. Are the numbers on this page accurate, or had they changed
We changed.
on the back of this page?
They're all changed,
Right.
that we approved last time.
Could you give us those numbers again?
Okay, let's start. Amabile is at 45,000, that is not changed. Then Christiana is 40, Eagleville 40, Fosterville 40, Kittrell the same, 45, Las Casas 40, and you're talking about Laverne, but we had approved 30 last time. 40 at Rockvale, nothing there for Southeast, and 40 for Walter Hill.
And could we hear the rationale one more time for why the recommendation was lower for Laverne?
Well, this all started with Laverne, the city of Laverne, saying they were going to start the process of taking full responsibility for extrication, et cetera, the things that the Laverne Rescue Squad has been doing. So they proposed to reduce their contribution to $20,000. So I thought, in view of that, if they were going to actually take it over, which occurred basically in Smyrna, and we reduced our contribution to 0 there, so I recommended that we step aside since they were going to be fully responsible. Then through the course of their discussions, they decided somehow that it wasn't appropriate and timely, and they didn't choose to do that. So they were going to stay with their current contribution of $40,000. That's what the city of Laverne is giving to the rescue squad. So my reasoning at that point is, if they're going to stay the same, and it's their primary responsibility, 95% of the jurisdiction is in their city, that it looked reasonable for us to continue at our level because that's what they were doing. So that was my reasoning.
Well, the city of Laverne gives $40,000 plus the gasoline to them. And I have talked with the people at the rescue squad, and I have told them that if the city of Laverne takes them over, that they're part of the city of Laverne, period. But as the mayor was saying, the initial proposal is not the correct time for it, is, I guess, the best way to put it from my standpoint. And that's why, and I feel with what they do, that they should be on par with the standard volunteer departments, fire departments that aren't involved with any rescue.
Well, I'd heard the same thing, that the city was gonna make changes and take them over, and so, when we found out differently, that's why I looked at it differently. And give you an idea, these guys, I've actually had them in my district doing extrication when we've had some problems. So, I mean, they'll come the length of the county anywhere we need them when we call them. So it's not like they're stuck on the interstate over there or the upper corner of Laverne. They'd come out to the Kittrell facility and actually trained every one of us, volunteer firefighters, in extrication. They're all TARS certified, and, basically all the firefighters in my time period were TARS certified due to those guys' dedication and teaching us how to do that. And we've saved some lives doing that. So that's why I'm seconding it and supporting this.
It sounds like part of the rationale for not adding to the Laverne locations appropriations is that the city of Laverne didn't raise their appropriations. It was $40,000 last year from Laverne, and they kept it at $40,000.
That's our understanding, yes.
But some of the other locations here are receiving increases anyway from $30,000 to anywhere from $40,000 to $45,000. So it looks like in general, the amount we're allocating to these stations is going up.
It is, and all of these other stations are completely contained out in the county jurisdiction.
So they're not receiving any kind of
No, from anyone
city
else.
matching funds.
No. And there's a difference. These other jurisdictions primarily are doing fire. And two of them, the two that have got the $45,000 are also now doing extrication, but largely what the Laverne Rescue is doing is extrication.
They may be they're doing a different job.
Yeah.
Than most of them. I don't know which is, depends on the situation you're in, which is most important,
Right.
but the others are fighting fires and they're doing the others.
Commissioner Sandlin.
I don't blame Commissioner Schaefer for bringing it up, but the other night, I brought it up. The mayor of Laverne was here. The folks from Laverne Rescue Squad was here. I've been to their ham breakfast and stuff, know them guys very well, and they do a great job, no doubt about that. But I think the mayor was absolutely on point on what he did, and I actually had them out when they were going to take over and then put them back in at 30. Just to, put them back in. So, I don't really want to fight a lot about $10,000, but I think it's appropriate we put them back in at 30 because the mayor said that, they're still talking. So there wasn't they didn't stir it any the other night. And that's, I felt comfortable then putting 30 back in because the mayor put 30 back in actually the other night. And I thought that was a good gesture since it is on the table for them for Laverne to take them in since they're basically servants in Laverne.
But it might be several years from now before that happens. We don't know. And like I said, I talked to them at the Laverne Rescue Squad, and if they become part of the city, that they don't expect anything from the county then when they are a city organization or an entity.
They've also, the rescue squads have merged basically with the fire departments in the county. And if I'm not mistaken, Laverne's one of the ones that took us up on the option of the insurance. But part of the insurance that I was talking about the other night, where we have that requirement of $5 million of liability on there, the insurance rates are extremely high. Kittrell's was $39,000 I think a year, just on the insurance cost. And, that's not covering the fuel or anything else, the activities that they're doing there. So, that's why, the increases were needed. And the mayor did a good job on there. I don't find any fault in it, but I feel like, this is kind of an equity thing, and I think we need to be equitable.
I'm a little concerned that the Laverne squad would be penalized by the proposal by the city of Laverne that fell through. I understand that their proposal to take them in has been delayed, but I'd hate to penalize the fire squad for that.
Yeah, I'd like to put the mayor on the spot. If there had never been any conversations with the city of Laverne, what would your recommendation have been for the Laverne Rescue Squad? Would it have been 40 right on track with the rest of the departments?
No, I don't think they are justified in receiving the same level because they are providing services that are right there in a city that has more responsibility than we do.
Sounds like there's two issues. One, the city of Laverne's proposal was delayed.
Yeah.
And the other issue is that the city of Laverne didn't raise their allocation to the fire squad themselves. It's staying at 40,000.
It's staying the same, and I
Well,
think,
again, I don't know if last year they paid gasoline for them, which this year, this coming year, they're using the Laverne City's gasoline. So, that's worth something. And like I said, I don't know for sure if it was involved last year or not.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Call roll on this one.
Call the roll, yes.
Commissioner Baum,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
No.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
No.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
No.
Passed.
4-3, motion carries. That does pass. So if you would adjust that to 40,000 to the Laverne Rescue Squad.
What's that number, 370?
And, yes, and the total will be 370. Anything else that we need to review?
Well, we're still not raising the taxes, so that's good. After all this, that we've been through the past 3 nights, we're still not raising the taxes.
That is the recommendation that we've received from the mayor. Even though we've worked through this pretty quickly, there has been a lot of work done on this before we actually
Absolutely. And
have seen it.
I know we're not done yet, but I want to compliment Lane and Lisa and the mayor for the hard work they've done so far and bringing it to us in the way. The format's a little different, but in some of
We'll
them,
like it
but
later.
we'll like it later, for sure. But
Gentlemen, let me give you some reminders at the bottom of your agenda page. A reminder about our joint meeting with the Health and Education Committee at the school board office on May 24th. That's next Tuesday at 5:30. And then we will meet back here on May 31st at 5:30 to consider the school board's budget. And our first really, I guess, big deadline is June the 2nd, 5:30. We need to have our budget ready for publication.
Is there a chance we won't need that June 2nd?
I'm thinking there's a good possibility.
I know in the past we've been able to cut that
We may
last
not,
meeting.
Wherever my thing went, because I'm thinking on the,
What do you need?
we meet on the 31st to go over the schools. I will have for you,
Do you think we can do it then?
yes, I'll bring forward on the 31st all
Excuse
the
me just a minute,
adjustments,
gentlemen.
all the
excuse me,
adjustments
please.
that we did to the general fund, which those are the ones that primarily have adjustments from the mayor and reflect all the changes that y'all have done. I'll have it then on the 31st.
So there's
So
good
you might
chance.
can just do those and then look at those 3 and then,
So we may be able to strike that June
June
the 2nd
2nd.
meeting, if we can get that work done on the 31st. That would be a little bit of a disadvantage for you, Commissioner P., but,
Well, that's still one that, I've got a business trip that week.
yeah.
Come on, I'm gonna
Okay.
attend
Yeah.
that.
Any other business that needs to come before our committee? Okay, gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.